And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of the Doing the Work postgame show. As tonight, your number three seeded Indiana Hoosiers come up victorious in their second round game of the NCAA tournament against the Princeton Tigers, 56-55, sending them to the Sweet 16 for the second year in a row. I am your host, Kathy Amos, here with my co-host, Shawn Cron, and today we will break that game down for you on this edition of Doing the Work, the new show on the Back Home Network dedicated to covering the IU women's basketball. And we're going to start this show the way we do every show, and that's with our banner moment. And it's probably an obvious one, but I'm going with it anyway. And I'm going to the end of the game where we have 28 seconds to go, and we're down by 1 point, and we have a timeout. And it's just been a grind the second half. You know, at one point in that third quarter, we were up by 14 points, and we really just kept, letting it slip away. We've had some scoring droughts. Princeton just, hats off to Princeton. They just played a hell of a game and never went away. They never quit. And finally, at the 28-second mark, after being down one, we have a timeout. We get the ball down to Grace, and Grace Berger did her Grace Berger thing. She drove down. She got that and got that lead back, and we wouldn't relinquish it after that. Of course, we know that led to some tough defense that we've been known for all year, and Allie Steele on the other end. And then eventually we had Alexa Gulbe with 1.6 seconds hitting both her free throws to seal it for us. And we would end up winning 56-55. So our banner moment today, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel. It's their first season as the presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. And did you know that among Home Field's large collection of vintage IU apparel is a shirt commemorating one of the most successful seasons in the history of Indiana women's basketball program? It's true. In fact, I have it on again tonight. So it was my lucky shirt Saturday. I brought it in for the game tonight. So you can also have this shirt as well as many other IU collections in the Home Field Apparel collection. And given what our team is doing this year, it might be time for that new shirt. And if you support other college teams or other people in your life who do, Home Field probably has a shirt for them as well, or some other kind of product. It extends to over 120 schools, and there's lots of unique vintage logos for everybody to enjoy. And no matter what you buy, you know it will be comfortable and the colors will last through many washings. Plus, you're supporting an Indiana-based company that came up through Kelly. So what could be better than that? Plus, if you haven't bought from homefieldapparel.com, one, I'm not sure what you're waiting for. Two, go ahead and get out to the website and use our promo code HOME, HOME, to get 15% off your entire first order. That's promo code HOME off your for 15% off. Again, go to homefieldapparel.com and wear one for the team. Okay, now it's time to move the ball, find our open player, and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team. And Shawn, I'll kick it over to you now for Shawn's summation. What do you have for us tonight?
Yeah, that was, I want to say that was too close for comfort, but, we knew tonight going into this game, it was going to be a battle. Princeton just coming in off of a great victory over Kentucky, and they won their 18 straight games prior to tonight. So they had a great defense all year, and I think as we go through the numbers, I think some of that we'll recap a lot of that. But we needed to play a solid game and take out some of their big time players, and I think we just needed to grind out this victory tonight, and I think that's exactly what we ended up doing.
Yeah, I would say that it's the grind. I mean, you can look at the score, 55-56, and the score alone tells you what kind of a battle it was, and it was definitely a defensive battle. It was definitely not our prettiest game of the year, but who cares? A win's a win.
That's right.
Survive, advance. We're going to the Sweet 16, everybody. So welcome again, and as we continue our breakdown of Indiana's win over Princeton, we will point out today's meaningful moments you might have missed. Then we'll go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes from the game. You are listening to the Doing the Work post-game show. Again, my name is Kathy Amos. I'm here with my co-host Sean Cron, and we're breaking down that Indiana win over Princeton. So now it's time for meaningful moments you might have missed. And yeah, Sean, I don't know if we'll get too in depth like we have in the past here. It was again maybe not the most the prettiest of games, but why don't we go ahead and start with the first quarter? And do you have anything you want to talk about?
I'm going to start with the very first play of the game, which was a charge foul call on Allie. I think it basically told us exactly how the refs were going to call this game tonight. That first half they were really calling it pretty close, and then later on it just kind of seemed to be up and down. There's some fouls that I think they obviously missed, and other stuff that I think they that weren't fouls, But needless to say, hey, you can't leave it up to the refs. You got to play the game, play through it. So I think that kind of set the tone. But shortly after that, at the 8:43 mark, Nikki hits her first three of the game, and she had and then right afterwards she had a nice. She hit her first three, and it was from a nice cross court feed from Mac on the other side of the court, and. We were, at that point, I was thinking, hey, we're going to be distributing the ball well. Hopefully, our outside shots keep falling, and it was just good to see Nikki hitting her first shot there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I was really watching for is how much we would get it down to Mac in this game, because we definitely had a size advantage over Princeton, both with Mackenzie down low as well as Alexa. And we had, very early on, 2.5 minutes on, that great feed from Nicole that made from Nicole down to Mac to get her first bucket to make it 5-5. But it didn't seem like, I thought, through the whole game, we really seemed to target her. And in fact, Sean, as you and I were watching the game together tonight, during that whole third quarter in particular, it really seemed like Mackenzie was sitting quite a bit. And I really just thought we would go to her a lot more. So I was a little surprised, although maybe it was part of just the matchups too. We were trying to maybe match their size, because they're again in that first quarter around the 2-minute mark. The team was clearly trying to get it into Mac, and they just really couldn't. The nice thing is that they did, swing the ball around and found Chloe Moore McNeil out on the 3-point line to end one of our scoring droughts, and that became a theme for our game. We did have quite a few scoring droughts in this game. But that put us back up there 12-13 in that first quarter. What else did you have in that first?
You had mentioned about the size advantage with Mac tonight, and a couple things I wanted to hit on tonight was that at the 6:35 mark, Mac had her first block of the game. Mm-hmm. She ended up with 4 on the night. In that first quarter, she ended up with two blocks, one at the 6:35 mark and another one at the 5:30 mark. So I think defensively, from defensive effort from Mackenzie tonight, as far as down low, it was really spot on.
Yeah. The other thing I wrote down, there were actually 2 moments that I wrote down on the Princeton side, and that was at the 6:10 mark. We had Abby Myers got her second foul, and just right at the end of that first quarter, with about 7 seconds left, Chen on Princeton got their second foul, and I thought that might play some advantage to us down later in the game, especially with Abby Myers. So for those of you maybe who aren't familiar with Princeton, Abby Myers was the Ivy League Player of the Year. She is definitely their leading scorer. She normally averages 18 points per game. So, that forced them to sit her for a while, and they really only average or play about 6 players. So I thought that might really play to our advantage, but it didn't quite seem to play out as, the game on. But I thought those were both meaningful for things I wanted to mention. So yeah, Abby did sit for part of that first quarter, but for the most part, they brought her back in, and she ended up playing for most of the rest of the game, and ended up with, but she ended up with 4 fouls. So it came pretty close, but overall, I thought that first quarter, it was kind of back and forth and was fairly even. We ended up, 17-17 at the end of that first quarter. So anything else in that quarter you want to talk through?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay. All right, moving on to the second quarter. I'll just talk about the very first play I thought that really came out for us on offense. And Allie was shooting a 3. She made it, ended up getting fouled, and that's put their third starter into foul trouble with a couple fouls there too. So again, there's something that the referees that first half, I thought was calling it really, really tight, especially compared to how we've seen some other women's game this year. So, but overall, and then Allie made that bucket to make it a 4-point play, and then would put us up there 21-17 to start that first quarter or third quarter. Second quarter, I'll get it eventually, to start the second quarter for us. But and then they did put Myers back in right away after that. And then again, continuing the foul theme, we go on defense and Nicole got her second foul. So again, it was just a lot of whistles in that first quarter and the beginning of the second quarter. And I thought it was really taking the flow out of the game. What do you have for that second quarter?
Yeah, at the 4:05 mark, Chloe Moyer McNeil hit her second 3-pointer of the game, and that was great to see her get in and contribute. And she's showing that she's becoming a consistent 3-point threat, I think. And then at the 3:47 mark, shortly after that, Mac ended up getting another block, so her third block of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, we'll talk about defense, I'm sure, and especially on a couple of their key players that we had. But, we held them to 55 points. They do average around 68 to 69 points per game. So we definitely held them underneath. So our defense showed up again for us tonight. And, that's the couple of things, if you've listened to Coach Moore and talking going into this postseason, the things she's looking for are defense and rebounding. And, we'll talk about the rebounding, I'm sure, when we get into the statistics. But from a, eye test on the defensive side, we definitely showed up tonight. But Grace was, I thought, kind of struggling to get going. She had a lot of turnovers in that first quarter in particular. But, boy, she, around the 3:14 mark in that second quarter, she, got the ball, drove in and had one of her patented, I'm quite sure, patented at this point, right? Pull-up jumpers at the, kind of around that elbow mark. And I wrote down, is this going to get her going? And I thought I thought it kind of did. We had Grace with at least point-wise production. She ended up with 15 points to lead the team. And she really just had some key plays in that second quarter, and that really sparked a good run for us. And we ended up going on an 8-0 run there in the middle of that second quarter. And then we fouled Abby Myers, again, their leading scorer. She's an 85% free throw shooter. She missed them both.
Right.
And I was really shocked at that. And then we go back down on the other end, and Grace again scored another bucket to have us go 10 unanswered points there. And that's really how we would end that second quarter. We went on a 13-4 run in the last 4 minutes to go up 10 at the half. So, it looked like we had some really good momentum. So I really wanted to talk through that whole sequence, Shawn. But did I steal any moments or do you have any left?
No, I think you covered those moments. The only thing I wanted to point out is the very last play of the game, they ended up calling a foul on Mac, and it was, with like a half a second left. Of the quarter. And so it was her second foul, and at that point I was like, how is this going to affect us in the second half? Hopefully we could keep her out of foul trouble, and that didn't end up being an issue. But I just thought, with a half second left in the half, that was a really unfortunate call.
Yeah, I would agree. Mackenzie would end up, though, only with 2 fouls, so it ended up not being too costly for us as a team. Yep. So we went on that big run there at the ends, and momentum seemed to be really in our favor there, going into halftime, up 10.
Right.
But yeah, let's go ahead and start talking about the second half, because I think this half it didn't quite flow out of the locker room for us into the floor. And, I really didn't have a whole lot of meaningful moments really that I wrote down in the third or the fourth quarter. So maybe we'll try to touch on a few. In the third quarter, I did write down, around the 6.5, 7 minute mark, we had just a very big offensive breakdown where we're really just, again, and there was quite a few of them, I thought, in the third quarter. But it finally, it ended up leading to a pull-up jumper by Grace. And that was important because that led to a 29-43 lead for us. So we had a 14-point lead. We had built it right out of halftime. And then from there, Princeton just went on a run, and a 13-2 run over the last 6 minutes. And we went on just a very long scoring drought. We went well over 4 minutes in that third quarter without scoring. What do you have, anything specific in the third quarter that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple shots by Grace. Grace had hit a couple fabulous shots. There was one shot where she got the ball, she dribbled in the lane, and she spun to her right, and then just hit a great jumper, and that's the shot that put us up 29-43.
Yep.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about in that third quarter. I mean, we ended up getting a 14-point lead at one point, but then by the end of the quarter, it was only a 3-point lead.
Yeah.
So they had really cut it down, and that was that started to get me scared at that point, and start making me wonder, what's happening here. We need to work it down low and get the ball back to McKenzie and start righting the ship again.
Yeah, that was definitely offensively by far our worst quarter. We only had 6 points in that entire third quarter. So nothing there, I think, left to unpack. Let's move on, I guess, to the fourth quarter. So I wrote down again, you and I talked about it here at home as well as earlier in the show here. I really wanted us to start getting the ball into McKenzie, and that's what I wrote down. Are we going to start getting the ball in? And immediately out of the timeout after the third quarter, we did. We got actually our first 2 scores in that in that fourth quarter. We're getting the ball down to McKenzie, and she scored the first 4 points of that quarter. So what else do you have written down from that fourth quarter? Just before we
I think
40-second mark, I think
that Mackenzie's second shot that she hit in that quarter at the 7:41 mark, Nicole had passed it into Mac, and she kind of twisted her way in through a double team and went up for a score, and scored a layup. And I just thought it was a great shot by Mac, and great assist by Nicole in that point. Unfortunately, right after that, Princeton would take the lead. They'd take their first lead of the game at the 5:19 mark. They went on an 8-0 run at that point, and IU hadn't. They're on a bit of a scoring drought. They hadn't scored a point in 2 minutes and 20 seconds at that point. Our turnovers were starting to affect the game at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely talk about turnovers when we get to the numbers, but a little bit another maybe moment I wrote down. We've talked about it again all year, how this team just never quits, and this is just another prime example of that was this game, but it specifically was Alexa Golbe. Alexa did not have, again, from an offensive production, the night that you would expect from her. Sometimes, especially you look at what she did a couple of days ago. Tonight, she only ended up with 5 points, but she did, again, things that doesn't end up in the stat sheets. And this was in particular at the 8:52 mark. So fairly early on into that fourth quarter, they're clearly struggling to get some defensive rebounds, and Princeton missed a shot, and Alexa just hustled well after that ball and dove on the floor, ended up saving it inbounds to get that defensive rebound. And again, just Alexa doing things that you expect from her in terms of things that don't show up in the stat line. And that to me was just a fantastic example from Alexa. So overall, though, I thought Alexa kind of struggled offensively in this game, but she did, again, things that we needed her to do. For example, she contributed 7 rebounds to our 32 that we ended up with on the night. Anything else specific play-wise that you want to talk about from that fourth quarter? I didn't have anything else.
No, I think the last play I wanted to mention was at the Grace hit the shot with at 28.2 seconds left, and then shortly thereafter, Nikki, in her pesky defense, forced Princeton into a bad pass. Allie got the steal and was fouled, and at that point, then it was like the longest 3 seconds of a game ever. Princeton had a couple fouls to give before IU could start shooting free throws, and so then the rest was kind of history from there after Alexa made 2 free throws.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe let's talk a little bit, and we can take this to segue into inside the numbers as well and talk about our individual plays that we had. We really only played 6 players tonight. We kept it really short. So let's start with maybe, we've already talked quite a bit about Grace Berger. We'll just go ahead and dive inside the numbers if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, let's talk about Grace. She ended up with 15 points for us tonight on 7 of 14 shooting and 7 rebounds. The only thing that was, kind of a blemish for Grace tonight is just that first half in particular, she looked really unfocused, and she had 5 turnovers in the first half and would end up with 6 for the game. Just kind of uncharacteristic. We only had 6 the entire last game when we opened up our NCAA tournament play. And she had 6 by herself on this game. And I think that became kind of a theme for this team tonight, was just 17 turnovers, was well above the 11 that they want. And you told me earlier that we averaged right around 12 turnovers per game. And that led to 18 points for Princeton off of turnovers, 18 points. So to me, that was by far I think the stat of the game. If you're looking to understand why this game was so close, to me, the biggest one was turnovers from us. And as you had pointed out too, a lot of those just seemed unforced. I mean, Princeton only ended up with 5 steals. So it wasn't like they were stealing the ball. A lot of it was just, it seemed unfocused. Alexa throwing the ball out of bounds, to the sideline and just missing it, and just errant passes. One time Grace tried to hit Grace Wagner cutting, and but Grace had already cut, and it was just really, a very sloppy game that I think they're going to have to make sure that, moving forward here as they move on to the next round, they're really going to have to get that clean back up.
Yeah, I think it was unfortunate to see that, the number of turnovers that they had tonight compared to the last game. Last game they ended up with 6 turnovers total for the night, and tonight they ended up with 17. So it was, I think maybe part of it was nerves, maybe a lack of focus, like you had mentioned. But yeah, they're definitely going to have to get that cleaned up before the next game.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from Princeton either. I mentioned they only had 5 steals. On the season, Princeton actually is a really good defensive team. And so I'm going to shout out to Kirkwood Avenue News, who he and I have a text chain going about these games. He gave me some stats, so I don't want to take credit for his, but Princeton actually forces 19 turnovers per game this season, and they only allow 35% field goal shooting and only 51 points per game. So the fact that, we were struggling, I don't want to say it was all mental. Some of it definitely was, again, the errant passes, but hats off to Princeton. I mean, I thought they were probably underseeded as an 11. I thought they probably deserved a lot more, especially if you watched that Kentucky game, obviously on Saturday. They were a good team. So I'm not taking anything away from that. So, yeah, what other kind of stats do you have?
You want to continue with the individual players? So Mackenzie Holmes tonight, she only ended up with 10 points. As we had mentioned, they didn't seem to be looking for her, couldn't get the ball into her as much as they had wanted to tonight. But she had 10 points on 5 of 6 field goals. She ended up with 8 rebounds, so 7 defense, 1 offense. 2 assists, 1 steal, and 4 blocks. So she had a great game tonight. Like I said, I mean, it wasn't all about the points tonight, but she the game that she played tonight was on the defensive side, I'd say, tonight.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm going to take that and segue into defense. And I want to talk about Allie Papberg. And I'm going to read off the stat line from Abby Myers from Princeton. So Abby Myers ended up with 11 points. She got that on 4 of 15 shooting, including 1 of 7 from 3 points, and only 1 assist. So Abby Myers, again, was the Ivy League Player of the Year. She averages 18 points per game. And Allie had that defensive assignment. Coach Moore talked about that in one of her pre-game press conferences, how she was going to put Allie on there, and Allie did her job. And the reason I want to make sure to point that out is because I'm sure, again, if you look at stat lines only, you're going to look at Allie's stat line of only 6 points, 2 turnovers, 3 assists, and say, oh, Allie didn't have a great game. I actually, on the contrary, I think Allie's defense might have been one of the key contributing factors to what helped lead to this win for us. Again, holding Princeton to only 55 points in total. The biggest reason is because you kept Abby Myers to only 11 points and well under her almost 19 points per game average.
Yeah, absolutely. And, along those same lines, Nicole Cardano Hillary tonight, Ended up with 12 points on 4-7 shooting. But a good portion of the night she was guarding Chen, and Chen ended up having 10 points on 3 of 13 shooting. So obviously Nikki's defense was affecting her shooting. I know she wasn't one of their main scorers, but the last game against Kentucky, she ended up having 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
So she was somebody that could actually score and go off, and I think Nicole did a great job defensively on her.
Yeah.
And along with that, Nicole ended up leading the team in assists with 4 tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, and again, so we should talk about our shooting though as a team. So we ended up shooting 51% from the field. So the problem again wasn't our shooting tonight. It was that we did not end up with enough possessions because of our turnovers. But again, when we did have the ball, we were really quite efficient with it. It was 51%. And again, just as a reminder, Princeton only allows 35% in field goal shooting on average this year. Again, I understand that was, in a different conference in the Ivy League, and you can make all those reasons, but Princeton is not any kind of a slack of a team, especially defensively. No. So to shoot 51%, again, it was a lot of I thought offensively we were fine if we kept the ball.
Yeah.
So I think that was really the story for me for this game. I don't really have any other stats except for we should touch on rebounding. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah. Before we do that, I wanted to, you had mentioned about, Princeton and the Ivy League. One of the stats that jumped out to me is when we were listening to the game is that Princeton, being in the Ivy League, they haven't lost a game in the Ivy League since February of 2019. That's 42 straight wins in the Ivy League. Now, we know it's the Ivy League, but still, that's impressive. To go that 42 straight wins in your conference, that's pretty impressive. So, like you had said, I mean, not to take anything away from Princeton, they are a very good team, and I agree. I think they were underrated this year.
But. Yeah, they had an 18-game winning streak coming into tonight. They haven't lost since early December or late December, the 22nd. So great point.
Yeah, so. I think our Achilles heel tonight, it was twofold. One, it was the turnovers. Two, it was the rebounds. We ended up out rebounding them 32-29, but on the offensive rebounds, they out rebound us on the offensive boards 10-1.
Yeah.
And with such the height advantage that we had tonight, I thought we would have done better there, but. Their leading rebounder, Mitchell, I believe she averages 12 rebounds a game.
10.
10, and she ended up with 15 tonight. 5 of them were offensive rebounds, and some of those possessions, they would have 3 or 4 shots at the basket, and so we just couldn't, either we couldn't find her, we had trouble, finding our person and putting a body on somebody and fighting for that rebound. But, I think we're definitely and make sure that we're boxing out and going back to the fundamentals on that and making sure that we're keeping them off the board and fighting for some of those offensive rebounds a little bit more.
Yeah, and I agree. Quang in the chat here said they do shoot a lot of long shots, and that does lead to long rebounds. Totally agree with that. That was probably part of what negated some of our height advantage that we did have. But again, I still wouldn't expect us to get out rebounded, at least offensive rebounds for them with 10 and only 1 for us. Again, part of ours is, when we didn't have as many offensive, it all comes together, right? We only have 1 offensive rebounds because when we did shoot the ball, we were shooting 51%. And when we weren't shooting the ball, we were turning it over and you're not getting offensive rebounds. So, it all kinds of, it all blends together. Anything else stat wise?
I think that's it. I mean, we've already mentioned the 5 blocks on the night by the team.
5 steals for both teams.
5 steals for both teams. So I think that covers the stats.
Yeah, absolutely. I do also, just again, in case you weren't sure, I am pretty impressed with Princeton. I did enjoy watching them Saturday. I would have enjoyed watching them tonight if they were not playing us. They play a lot of fun basketball. They're clearly well coached, and they had balanced scoring too. They had 4 players in double digits. So compared to us, we only had 3 tonight, which was a little unusual for us. So. All right, well, we will move on then. So you are listening to the Doing the Work IU post-game show. You can catch us live immediately following most IU women's basketball games, and you can find us at our website at assemblycall.com. Also, while you're there, make sure to sign up for our free IU Hoops newsletter with over 9,000, close to 10,000 now of your fellow IU fans that have subscribed. You can join for free today at join.assemblycall.com. Again, my name is Kathy Amos. I am here with my co-host Sean Cron, and we are breaking down Indiana's second round NCAA tournament victory over Princeton that sent them into the Sweet 16 for the second year in a row. All right, Sean, this section might be a little tough, so calling to our workaholics that are in the chat to start thinking about game ball and hustle words. So I'm going to start with you, though. Who do you have for your game ball tonight?
Oh boy, yeah, this was a tough one for me. I'm gonna go with Mac tonight. I don't think she, as far as the points, I mean, she wasn't our leading scorer by any means tonight, but she did lead the team in rebounds and blocks. I think her defense down low really disrupted Princeton tonight, and I think I think she had a really solid game.
Yeah. Okay, so again, I'll repeat, we definitely don't talk about this before the show, and tonight's another one, so we're going to throw it out to the chat mob. I had written down Grace Berger for my game ball. I know Grace in terms of turnovers, at least in that first half, had 5 turnovers. However, I really thought that she came up clutch when we needed her to scoring. I mean, she was my banner moments for a reason, and we gave her that ball out of that timeout when we're down with 28 seconds to go because we trust her with that ball. She contributed some assists too there for us as well. Or 1 assist rather, but 7 rebounds as well. And so I'm voting for Grace. So we'll leave it here to our workaholics to break the tie between Grace or Mackenzie. So I'm looking here. Quang and Joe both are voting for Grace. We'll see if anybody else comes in. But right now we'll say Grace. We can always come back and change that. But let's say Grace for now. And that makes it her 10th game ball for the year. That is 4 each for Mackenzie, Nicole, and Allie, and 2 for Alexa. So now it is time for the Hoosier Hustle Award, and that's sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services. Evansville Security Services provides off-duty police officers to businesses and individuals throughout Indiana. Remember, prevention cannot be measured, so let Evansville Security Services help you prevent a bad outcome today. Go to evansvillesecurityservices.com to learn more. Again, that's evansvillesecurityservices.com. Okay, we had a few more votes coming in for Grace, so I think we can stick with Grace for the game ball. So, all right, Hustle Award. I'll start us off, and boy, I'm really struggling with this one tonight. I really think that you can go a number of different ways. Yeah. I think Nicole is always there because she just does a lot of hustle things. I thought Allie, again, her defense was on point tonight with Abby Myers, and I'm not sure that we win this game without her defense. Chloe Moore McNeil, we didn't talk enough about her in the stats, so let me talk a little bit about her. She ended up coming in off the bench and provided 8 points. 2 of 4 from 3-point land, and just really provided us some really fantastic minutes. So to me, I and then you already mentioned Mackenzie. Mm-hmm. She didn't get the game ball, but she contributed 10 points and 8 rebounds. I just think that you could go a number of different ways. And I'm really struggling this one, but and again, this may not be the fan favorite, so you can break my tie or not, but I'm going to vote for Allie for my Hustle Award. And again, I just thought that her defensive effort at the end of the day was something that kept Abby Meyer into check, and she did some of the other leadership quality. I thought there were some other things that maybe didn't quite go her way that might have, gotten her offensively more points than you might have seen. She had that key 3-pointer, I thought, at the beginning of the the second quarter where she got fouled on the 3-pointer, and she just made a lot of hustle plays that you don't show up. So for me, I'm going to vote for Allie. But What about you, Shawn? Because again, I think you can go to a lot of different ways on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Chloe on this one tonight. She came in off the bench again tonight, hit two 3-pointers in key situations. She had another nice drive down the middle of the lane for a layup. Along with that, she had two rebounds and led the team with 2 steals tonight. So she had a solid game with 8 points, and I think I think we've got some good things to look forward to in the future with Chloe.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got me with Allie, and we got you with Chloe. So. So I'm kind of looking here to see what we got. We got an honorary, always Quang. Quang is always voting for Nikki for honorary hustle. John also voted here for Allie. So we'll kind of just keep an eye on that and see who comes in. But you know what? This is a good problem to have. Again, we've talked about this all year. And if we split the hustle award between a couple different players, then we'll, you know what? Let's split it. We can do that too. You know what? Because it's our show and we can do what we want. So. All right, Shawn. What other lingering storylines, lingering questions do you have coming out of this game?
I think the lingering question is going to be twofold, like we had talked about earlier. Can they eliminate eliminate some of these turnovers, these unforced turnovers? Get that back, get that number back, underneath 10. And again, can they get on the offensive boards and start getting some of these second chance points? I mean, we only had 1 offensive rebound tonight, so and we don't have the stats to tell us whether or not how many second chance points we had versus what they had. But I know at one point tonight, the commentator said that I believe Princeton had scored 18 points off of our 17 turnovers. So I mean, that's a lot of points there to give up there. And then I'm sure, I'm not sure how many second chance points they had versus us on the offensive rebounds, but I think it's that's going to be my lingering questions. Can they improve those numbers going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I have the same lingering question written down, and I'm not too overly concerned about it because, again, we averaged 12 turnovers per game. We only had 6 against Charlotte, 18 tonight. Again, the defense from our opposing players are definitely going to ratchet up. So that's definitely it. Are we going to be able to, again, we will play again on Saturday now. So we have some time off here to regroup and start scouting whoever our next opponent is. We'll get into that here in the previewing of our upcoming shows and opponents. But okay, I'm looking here at the chat. I have a couple other people that voted with me for Allie. So Shawn, do you want to do Allie or do you want to split it between Allie and Chloe?
No, I think Allie, Allie had a really good game tonight defensively, holding Myers to, was it 11 points, I believe? Yeah. I'm fine with giving it to Allie tonight.
Okay, great. Well, for our hustle awards then, Chloe does have 6, leads that category for us on the season. Grace and Nicole both have 5. Grace Berger and Nicole both have 5. Alexa and Allie now have 2, and then we have 1 each for Mackenzie, Keandra, Grace Wagner, and Caitlin. So I don't have anything left to cover from this game. Do you have anything else you want to talk through?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, let's talk a bit about our upcoming show and our upcoming opponents. Our next post-game show will be on Saturday. If you're wondering why, if you're watching, I keep standing up. I'm trying to keep an eye on the game that's going on, a little bit on the score here of our next opponent. So our next post-game show will be Saturday. We will play the winner of University of Central Florida, UCF, or University of Connecticut, UConn. They are currently playing right at this second. The last time I saw the score, I think UConn was up over UCF by about 6. Do you have that by 8 now?
38-30 right now at the end of the third.
At the end of the third. Okay, so UConn is up by 8 at the end of the third. We will play that that winner. It will now be, I believe, we can move on to Bridgeport, which will be interesting if it does end up being UConn, because I believe Bridgeport is only about something like, what, 20, 30 miles or so from University of Connecticut's campus. So not knowing who we're playing, I did pull up a little bit of information on both teams. I didn't go into a lot of in-depth, obviously. So first on UCF, they are the 7 seed in our bracket. They are currently 26-3 coming into the game they're playing right now. They beat the number 10 seed Florida in the opening round, 69-52. UCF averages 60.7 points per game, and they are led by a player named Diamond Battles, and she averages 14 points per game. On the flip side of that, you have UConn. UConn is the number 2 seed in our Bridgeport region. They beat number 15 seed Mercer in their opening round game, 83-38. No, I didn't just flip the numbers. That is the correct score, 83-38. That win for UConn was their 28th consecutive opening round win in NCAA tournament. So in case you weren't sure, if UConn has a long history of NCAA tournament appearances and wins, that is their 28th year in a row that they have won their opening game. UConn is definitely a favorite right now to beat UCF, but again, UCF is hanging right in there as of right now. Anyway, UConn overall is 26-5 on the year. As a team, they average just shy of 75 points per game, and Kristen Williams is their leading scorer, who averages 14.6 points per game. The game will be on Saturday. They have not announced game times, so keep an eye out on Twitter. You can also subscribe to Assembly Call on our YouTube channel to get notifications for when we'll do the show. For those of you who have been regular followers of us, Coach Jeff Marlowe is still in Europe with his class trip there. So Shawn will most likely be filling in for him again, quite admirably off the bench. So, but we will definitely be back on Saturday for a show after that game. So you are listening to the Doing the Work IU post-game show. And one last reminder, please check out our friends at Home Field Apparel. And again, if it's your first order, you can use our Home Field code at HOME home at checkout and get 15% off your first order. Okay, Shawn, it's last call, so let's go around, and you can start us off with your closing statements. What do you have for us?
I just want to say congratulations to the IU women's team, reaching the Sweet 16 for the second year in a row. That is a great accomplishment. I just hope that I hope there's more to come. I'm excited to continue watching this team, and I'm excited for the next game.
Yeah, you know what? We're still dancing, everyone.
That's right.
We're still dancing. Sweet 16. This is fantastic. This team had some high expectations and things they set out for themselves, high goals that they set for themselves. They didn't quite accomplish what they wanted to in the regular season or the Big Ten tournament. But their season's not over yet, everyone. We're still playing, we're still dancing, we're still going. And so thanks to everybody that's out here in the chat mob and the workaholics listening with us and chatting along with us tonight. This was definitely our highest I think we've had in terms of live viewership. So we definitely appreciate the support. Again, we're not here doing this for ourselves. We're here just because we want to share the love we have of Indiana women's basketball with other people. So if you enjoyed the show, thank you very much, and please spread the word to your friends. And hopefully this will get a little more attention each time for women's basketball in general, because they're putting out some great product tonight. And if you didn't think women's basketball could be exciting, then you definitely did not watch our game tonight. So there have been a lot of great games in general with the NCAA tournament as well for the women. And so for my closing statement, I'm just excited to be here to share this with my fellow Indiana fans, with Shawn. I'm excited to be able to come back and do this again on Saturday for yet another NCAA post-game show, whatever may come out of that. I have enjoyed watching this team all year. They never quit, and we're not going to quit on them either. So
that's right.
I think that will do it. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of our live chat and be part of that workaholics crew we got going on, we got a couple of regulars in here. It's fantastic. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/assemblycall, and subscribe there so you get notified whenever we will have a show. And don't forget to also go to join.assemblycall.com to join our free email newsletter. A special thanks to John Ringer of Riggs Design, who designs the Simply Called logo. And thank you all for listening. And one last reminder, we will be back again with you on Saturday for yet another post-game show. And until then, keep your elbow in, your eyes on the rim, and let's go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers.
Yeah, and Steve Fisher in the chat has just updated us. Now UConn is pulling away here a little bit. They're up 41-30. So,
all right.
Quang, I don't know who Richard is, so I can't tell you where he's at. So sorry. Sorry, I don't know who he is. So, but yeah, so great job tonight with all of our support out there in the chat, Mom. And Shawn, thanks again for filling in.
Yeah,
I know it's not your most favorite thing in the world to do.
That's all right.
I owe you.
That's all right. I love IU, so hey, it makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again. We're going to go ahead and sign off, and we'll hopefully see you all in the chat on Saturday as well. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.